Welcome to the Lighthouse Sessions. Today I'm really excited. My long-lost sister, Esther Deutsch, is with us, dear friend. Ironically, we've never met in person, but not a day goes by where I've been thinking about Esther because she's just so amazing. Esther, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became the maven of networking?
Thanks so much, Jeff. Every time you say we haven't met yet, I'm like, that's crazy. Like we know each other. Our souls know each other. It's wild. Anyway, it always blows my mind. But so nice to be back with you in this virtual room. So as you mentioned, my name is Esther Deitch. I work full-time in a technology company called Net at Work. The program or channel, as we call it, that I work in is called MSP Link. And we work with managed service providers, IT companies, to help them with line of business applications. And then on the side, I like to do all kinds of things. Of course, you are the catalyst for me writing my first book on networking, which was so fun, and I can't wait to do another. And I also run a couple of groups. I run a virtual roundtable called In This Together Roundtable that was started during the pandemic and has since gone on. And I also run a networking event series called Sunset Social here in South Florida in person. So we get together and connect quarterly.
I love it. And the funny thing is I still remember it was Lori Cartman that introduced us, and you and I are actually closer. I think of Lori every time I think of you. And I think that's something most people don't get about networking, is that when you do it right, the person who made the connection is as important as the people in the connection.
I owe Lori a call too. I can't believe I didn't even, I forgot that it was Lori introduced us. Yeah, 100%. Lori's so wonderful herself. So hello, Lori.
Hi, Lori.
Shout out to Lori.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I think, part of Esther and I have had many conversations, and Esther is a true entrepreneur because whenever we talk, I think it's fascinating because we're always solving some big world problem while creating some cause, while building multiple businesses, and in Esther's case, while building a company that she works with. So let's talk a little bit about what you do at your day job, and then we'll talk about the evolution of networking in your world.
Sure. So currently I'm helping these IT companies, we call them MSPs, is the industry term, managed service providers, a lot of them handle IT and managed services, but they don't deal with what we call line of business applications. So things like CRM, HR systems, ERP, all the different systems and softwares that organizations run on. So my job is to help get to know these, we call them partners, these MSP partners, understand their businesses. And before I joined Net at Work, where I am now, Jeff and I met when I was at my last role in an MSP for about 11 years, working in different areas of the MSP. So that experience is really helpful as I help them understand our program and basically get the most out of it. So any way that we can help them with marketing support, sales support, new client acquisition, engaging better with their current clients, client stickiness, those are all the things that I get to deal with on a daily basis here to help them get bigger and better, which is what we all do. This is what you and I love doing in general. So it all fits.
I love it. And I suspect that you bring your heart to work with you every day. And
I try. Sometimes it doesn't want to come out, but no, I do my very best.
I would suspect you on your least engaged day, you're still more engaged than the average human being. I know that heart of yours shines brightly. Even I can see it all the way from Canada. So let's talk about networking and your approach to it, because I firmly believe you bring your networking style to your day job as well as everything you touch. And I don't want to embarrass you, but I will say that Esther holds the record. When I ghostwrite a book, I always like to benefit a nonprofit. And some of my authors, we struggle to get one where we will say, this is a nonprofit that I care about and I want to support. Esther, I can't remember how many, but I think we had a few pages of them. And it was amazing because every day, Jeff, do you think we could add one more? And the answer was always, sure, Esther, let's go for it. So let's talk about networking. You bring your heart to everything you do. What's your philosophy on networking in business?
I really appreciate that, first of all. And likewise, I think that's why we get along so well. I think the first time we met, Jeff, because that conversation was so powerful in my life as well. And it's been a long time and we've had so many since then, but somehow every time we get on a screen, I think back to that first conversation, like who knew what was going to come from it. I think I said this quote back then. I'm going to say it again, though. I think I said someone wise once told me never do anything with half your heart. And that's something that I've always try and take with me because, again, to your point, heart and networking, has a place everywhere, not just if you're I don't really know what it means to have a networking job. Like it should be part of everything. And again, that's more in the book that we've done together. But so as far as, my philosophy on networking and service, and to your point, I still actively serve on many boards and love that. And maybe we'll have time or space to mention some of those nonprofits that I love so dearly. I feel like we also kind of have a conversation without bringing some of them in. Yeah. I just think that everything kind of works together. And to your point, I used to really feel like I had to separate my work life and my personal life. And now it's just become separate but equal. Like it's separate but it's not, because really if you're in service of others, and I'm sure you see this too, everything does work together and you get what you need financially, but also like spiritually and emotionally when you give to others. And it's so cliche, it sounds so cliche, but it's not. Like I live this and you do too, and I know that, and so many others out there. And that's how we find each other is through our service, I would say.
Yeah. Well,
so,
it's fascinating, Esther, because I started this podcast because I was tired of meeting the pessimistic, negative people. And so I picked Visionary Entrepreneur as a filter. And the fascinating thing is everybody I talk to, and you are no exception, well, you're an exception in the positive way, multiple projects, always some passion project. And then in that, it's all about a deep spirituality and not necessarily, a religious point of view, but it definitely spiritual, because I think when you serve with the intention of the greater good, you can't help but be touched by something bigger than all of us.
So well said. I think it's more, I would say, a value system, and that when you operate from the value system, actually everything becomes easier. And I know you and I were talking a little off recording about knowing what to say no to, but when you have such strong values, then actually things kind of fall into place and you already know, because that's something that I've always struggled with, was saying no and balancing and knowing what to give time to. It's still something that I always work on, but I think I've gotten better over time. And it really is. It's just when your value system is stronger, like, they say, if you know your yes, like you could do if you know your why, you could do any how, right? Like,
yeah.
So it's the same idea, when you know what you're, I don't want to say fighting for, but working for and living for, everything becomes easier. And even who to connect to your point. And it's hard. Like, it's hard for us to say no, and we have to say no because the only way we say yes. And that's how I allow myself to do it. I say, if I say no now, I can say yes to so many other things that need me more.
Well, it's funny. I'd love your opinion on this, but as I'm getting older, I like to believe I'm getting wiser. For me, it's been about figuring out what my yes is. And I'm going to say this imperfectly, but I'm figuring out what my hell yeses are. And once I figure out what the hell yeses are, the no's become irrelevant, because I don't need to think about, I should help. And, I'm one of those people pleasers. I'm in recovery, and, somebody asked for something, I'd be like, I should help you. Now it's like, is this part of my hell yes? And, it's fascinating, because when you get really clear on that why, the universe just pushes things at you faster than you can handle, and in a great way. So
that's another great point. Yeah. Like, once you know what you need, exactly what you said, the universe opens up, and it's an amazing thing, but I think agreed with the, know what you're saying yes to, and what you're not. It's hard though. Like, I think it's really hard for us. I mean, it is for me. It's like, it's not like I decide it and then I have to commit to it and then I have to do it again and again. But I've also learned that it's the only way to respect yourself and what you deserve. And so we have to do it. It's survival at this point, at least for me,
Well, for what it's worth, Esther, I went from a place I had zero boundaries. So learning to say no was huge.
Wow. Yeah.
But once I learned what my hell yes was, the boundaries became self-evident. I didn't have to set them. So believe it or not, I mean, it only took me a few decades to get here, but the stronger I get in my hell yeses, the less I hear the guilt of the no's.
Oh, sure. Sure.
So,
And I think also another point you made me think about is like, I think people think you reach a point where you have it figured out. And I have reached points where at that time I had it figured out. But I think what people don't realize is people like you and I are always evolving. And like that is a sign that you're growing. Like if you're a growing, thoughtful person, which most people who are trying to get to a place to figure it out are, like
yep.
you actually are never going to be figured out. Like you hit a point, and then the way I see it for myself is like I found what I love, I do it, it's good. And then at a certain point, I have hit my ceiling. I've maxed out my growth in that capacity. And it's like,
Yeah.
and I don't just mean physically, right? I mean like mentally and aesthetically in my own life of like, okay, what's going to push me harder. And so I like to, like I said, like then take everything I have, kind of take it apart in my head and start again. Like you got to keep rebuilding and you're never actually evolved. And that was also a realization for me because I'm someone who likes to like see a problem, tackle it, and then close the box. And like that's just not realistic. And it's also not really healthy in my opinion. Like we want to keep growing, evolving, get to a place, and then tear it all down and start over. And like, sorry for those people like myself that want everything to just finish or close out, but that's just not the way growth and life works. So to your point, like I think we both hit points, and you're obviously there now where you're like, I'm good, I figured this out. And then eventually you're going to feel unrest again because you're a growing thinking person, and that's okay. Like that's actually beautiful. And then you're going to go through your same epiphany, and that's how you keep evolving, you know.
Well,
so
for what it's worth, I used to think that personal development and growth was a checkbox, and at some point I'd be able to get my pen out and check it. Now I'm realizing it's like climbing a mountain. You start at base camp, and your goal is to get to the next level. And now I'm at a plateau where I'm like, the view is pretty good, and I know there's more. And
that's a good word.
So my aha moment in people like us were kind of, I would say, like the phoenix. You know, we go through a life cycle, we grow, and then at some point we go through what most would describe as death, but then we burn and we rise from the ashes, and we're renewed. And I think what distinguishes entrepreneurs from the rest of the world, and you know, there is a great deal of self-awareness, and what I'm finding is absolute and utter curiosity about the world around us.
That and embracing, it's also something I'm always working on, is like embracing those, I call them downs, but not really downs, but like when you feel like, you know what, and it's fine. Like just be like, that's cool. Like that's part of the process. It's something I've always like worked on, and just to not be afraid of that unrest. Like it's uncomfortable, but it's not bad. So just to like reframe that. And I think you also mentioned it in our conversation earlier, just not seeing trials and tribulations as bad, like uncomfortable, not fun, annoying, wish we didn't have to, all those things, like, but not bad. Like part of the yes is the no. So
somewhere in this, I chose this.
Yeah. So that's also actually a good way to look at it. I don't know if I'm quite there yet. I'm like, I don't want this, but now that it's here, you know.
Well, here's the thing, and one of my mentors, I'll share this with you, and for, if it feels like you're watching two friends talking, you are. One of my mentors said that freedom comes when you can look in the mirror and recognize that the person looking back at you is the only cause of your problems and the only possible solution to them.
That's beautiful.
And I went, oh shit, I am that guy. I am the, you know, I look in the mirror, this guy is the reason for all my struggles, and he's also the beneficiary of them. So it's, once I saw that, it became freeing, because, you know, again, it's not permission. You know, I hear some people say, oh, that gives me permission, I can just go out in the world and wreak havoc. No, you still need to be a good person, because everything you put out there is going to come back to you.
100%.
Now, let's shift gears a little and talk about your networking, because I think that's, my people are going to want to hear about that. And for the record, if somebody meets Esther and says, oh my God, I need help with, I'm an MSP, reach out to her. She is amazing. Let's talk about networking. So you not only, now, as I recall in this Together Roundtable, you started that in New York, and it just sort of, with COVID, evolved online. And then you being you, I am an introvert. Esther is an extrovert. She loves live events. So I love that In This Together Roundtable still exists, and it's alive and well and thriving as I understand it. And then, just because why not, you launched the Sunset, was it Sunset Socials?
Yeah, so that's actually, it's Sunset Social. And we're actually in the middle of doing a revamp, so it won't be Sunset Social for too much longer. A little sneak preview to that. More on that to come. But yeah, I decided I'll first share that In This Together Roundtable is still alive and thriving thanks to great leadership. And that's also something I had to learn, and that's why I share it for others out there that are solopreneurs or starting things on their own. You could do a lot alone, but you could do so much more with the right people helping you, even if they're not officially your partners. And again, that's something, as someone who loves to take control and be in control of things, I had to really learn how to let go and let people help. So that's still thriving thanks to great leadership. PJ Ewing and Luke Van Every are still keeping that alive and thriving. So I'm grateful for their support and partnership always from the beginning. And then here in South Florida, where I live, so we have Sunset Social events, which are quarterly meetups for professionals in all industries, all stages of their careers. And we've got investors, we've got solopreneurs, we've got established business owners, and larger corporations. And we come together to create friendship, bond, share ideas, network, of course, here in South Florida. So at this point, we're getting over 100 people, sometimes 200 or 300 at each event. And what I love about this event, I was thinking, as we're thinking about taglines and things, I was like, it's almost like we don't really advertise it. Like, it's the no advertising event. And we're lucky that we get such a great crowd, but it's like, it's so fun. It's almost like the friend of friend. And I really aim to maintain that no matter how big we get. That's sort of like almost like a speakeasy event where everybody's invited, but nobody gets an invite. So it's just like somehow it's just kind of grown that way organically. And I love that, because I think that's part of the reason that the quality and integrity, and to your point, like how we started this out of the givers, it's just, when the givers bring the giver friends, and then the giver friends bring the giver friends, you create something special, because that's what happens when givers come together. So
I love that. And, I'm going to be really honest with you. I think that's your secret ingredient is, you're making, and I say this sincerely, heart to heart connections.
Yes.
That matter. And so, if you were to go wide and far and market it as a networking event, you're going to get the 1,000 realtors who are there to sell a house. And it's like, okay, please just no. The answer is no. And that's the thing when you market it too far and wide, and I love the story behind the meetup company, and I love the heart that went into creating that. I don't know if you've heard it, but the version I heard was that the founders believed that 9/11 would not have happened if we had community. So they created the app to build communities. The problem is people saw it as a tool to build transactional communities. And I think in your case, the heart of it is people show up because they want to meet good people and then do business. Whereas
exactly.
I think if you market it too heavily, you're going to get the people showing up to do business who may or may not be good people. And again, no judgment on you if you're just transactional, but I firmly believe that you can do more and have more impact when you get to know the people, not the roles and, what's your title? Oh, my title's this. Oh, we're not a fit, or, hey, we're a fit. Can I sell you something?
Yeah. And this is almost like, for me, it's very meaningful to be involved. I mean, for many reasons in this building this, but also because when I was really young, I would say my first entry into team building and leadership and networking was from an organization that I ran as a nonprofit when I was really young in my teenage years. Very similar events, but for young professionals. And I learned so many things. And one of the things I learned was about picking leaders. And that's where I learned how to do that, and also how to pick leaders whose heart is in the right place, and how it looks like when that's not the case, and why it needs to be that way for anything that I put my name on to exist and last, because it permeates in the atmosphere. And to your point, I'm not even worried when we get bigger and bigger that we're not going to continue to have the same quality of people, because we're going to create, and I think we already have, but we'll see, a space that is so strong of the right people that those who don't fit in will fall out on their own. And that's something that I also believe when I create is it's exactly what you said too. It's crazy. Everything you said in the beginning, it all connects, but like the love just drives out the hate. And so it's the same. It sounds crazy, but in a business professional setting, it's no different. If you're so strong in your love and altruism and just being there for the right reason. And again, I always say this, I'm not discrediting making money, having a purpose of making money. I love money. I will say it. I'm not afraid to say it. I hope we both have that in common.
Yes.
Everybody listening. But how and why the money is what matters and what is different. And it does change the effect and the impact at the end of the day. So
I love it.
Yeah. So it's exciting.
Now, I'm going to share something with you because it was fascinating. A friend of mine introduced me to a billionaire, and we had a conversation, and he gave me 30 minutes in his calendar, and he said, if you ask good questions, you get the 30. If you ask stupid questions, we're done. And I got the 30. I will say, not to brag, but I got 35 because I got him on a rant, and he wouldn't stop, and I just had to laugh. But the aha moment, and I share this because I think a lot of people, I was raised with a misquote from the Bible. I was taught that money is the root of all evil. And I'm like, minor detail. The actual quote is the love of money.
Exactly.
But the aha for him as a billionaire, we like to vilify our billionaires and, they're greedy and blah, blah, blah. He said, Jeff, what do you think my impact on the world is? What do you think my philanthropy is compared to, he said, no offense, but someone like you? You're starting out, you want to help people. You haven't put your oxygen mask on first. I was a people pleaser. Somebody asked a favor, I'd stop and help. And he's like, I was ruthless with my calendar, ruthless with my time. My first charity work was in my corporation. I made sure all of my employees and their families were very well cared for, were very well fed. And then I started charities based on the backing of a billionaire. And he said, my philanthropy is fun. And I was like, oh my God, that's the aha moment, is money's not something that gets in the way of philanthropy. It's something that opens the doors to it.
100%. This is a whole other conversation, but like, again, I hate, and I guess I was also raised, I don't know about directly, I don't know if it was stated directly, but there was certainly messaging about like rich people and how they behave. And I'm not saying it's not sometimes true, but I always say the issue isn't the money. The money magnifies what's already there. And I've said this, I will say it till I'm blue in the face. Prove me wrong. Like, it's just, it's a tool like anything else, like social media, like anything. And you either use it to be better and make people better, or you don't. But,
well, and if I may say so, one of the fundamental, I am very spiritual, not religious, but if you look at all of the messages we've gotten about money, it tends to come from religious organizations that want you to give it to them. So not to be cynical, but the Catholic Church is one of the world's largest landowners, one of the world's wealthiest people, and yet we have to remind them that priests shouldn't be inappropriate with altar boys. It's, remember what you're there for. And sorry, I'm Catholic, I can make those jokes, but
well, and also, again, back to, we were talking a little bit about AI, which is like such a buzzword now, but it's just like AI. Like, AI is an amazing thing. Like, you can talk to this all day as the AI expert. Like, it's a beautiful thing. It has so much potential. It's going to help us do so many more things, so much quicker, faster, more efficient, do more for the world. But of course, it also has equal potential to be detrimental. And what's the difference? It's only how we as people use it, which is also why it's never going to replace people, because it needs us. Always will. But like, it's the same. Money's just another AI, right? It's just another thing. So I'm like, let's take it in, let's use it, but let's use it right. So don't run from it.
Well, I saw it online. A friend of mine posted, and it was from a rabbi, and I was like, oh my God, I love this. He said that money is just a certificate of appreciation for the good you bring to the world. And I was like, ooh, I like that. So, and I will agree with you 100%. And for the record, I've had this conversation with AI many, many times. I've asked, do you plan on ending humanity? And it tells me over and over, if AI ends humanity, it's because we programmed it to do so. And that's the thing. It is just a tool. It's like energy. We have nuclear power, we have regular power. It's good or bad based on how we use it, not inherently in itself. So let's talk about how people can either join in this together or come to your socials, because I feel like there's got to be some people in my network in Florida. Let's talk about how can people get to know more about you on the networking side. I realize we're really glossing over your day job, but the reality is if people like you, they're going to reach out and say, oh my God, Esther, how do we work together?
Sure.
So how can people get to know you, the human being that I adore so much, better?
So the best way is usually LinkedIn. That's, as you know, Jeff and I do a lot of work together on LinkedIn. So it's definitely one of my favorite platforms. And again, how you use it is a powerful thing, but I love it. So LinkedIn's great. I also have a website now. And again, shout out to PJ Ewing, who does all my graphics. It's estherdeitch.com. So up there, you can learn a lot more about my different nonprofit activities, profit, speaking, writing, all that. I think that would be the best way. And then as far as the networking groups, you can connect through that site. You could connect on LinkedIn. The In This Together is inthistogetherroundtable.com, spelled just like that. We're almost ready. Right now, Sunset Social is hosted on my own website, but with our new rebrand, we're going to have a new website that's just dedicated to that. So it's not live yet, but it should be soon. So stay tuned.
I love it. And for what it's worth, we didn't even get into your speaking side of things.
Next time. Next time.
Esther could have an entire series. And by the way, that's one of the things I adore Esther, because she's so interesting, because she's so interested. She's always curious about things. Let's just briefly talk about your speaking. I think anybody who has an event that wants to bring in a little extra magic should be reaching out to you as well. Is that fair?
I appreciate it. I love speaking anywhere and everywhere. So if you have an audience, I speak about many topics. One of my favorites is the topic of community and partnership. Clearly, it's something that I'm passionate about and giving back. So that's really exciting. And most recently, I did a talk at a conference for technicians to teach soft skills and heart. So we did a lot of leadership, and that was like everything for me. That was like my favorite. So that is a special passion point, but I also love to talk about some of the volunteer work I did and my experience having alopecia, which is a hair autoimmune disease. So anything, related is always
I love it.
On my radar.
Now, am I allowed to tease this a little and say that your next book is going to come out of that talk? Is that fair?
Absolutely, Jeff. You can do whatever you want, but yes, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, that'd be great. I'm excited. I even looking back as we were talking about always evolving, I feel like, my first book was amazing, but there's so much more that I've learned since then. So I'd love to share it. If it could help somebody, that's my goal.
Well, and I just want to be, as the president of your fan club, I must state that it's your second book. You always forget the first book. So there's a first book.
Yes.
And then your networking book. There will be a third book. And as long as I'm in Esther's world, there's going to be more books coming, because I love the stuff she does and I want to share it. So, Esther, I want to thank you for just taking the time. I know you are incredibly busy changing the world.
No.
I'm always in the corner going, yeah, Esther. So thank you for being on the show.
It's mutual. Thanks so much for having me, Jess. It's always so special.